Hey guys, I'm back. So, welcome back to the way we do it. I will be going live at least once a week. So, I wanted to make sure I had a big enough audience so I can reach you guys. I wanted to do my good work, and I thank my subscribers for subscribing to the way we do it. I hope you enjoyed some of our old school sketch comedy and some of the characters that I was able to pull out of the record books. And all these years they're still evergreen and they're still funny as hell, and the talent is incredible. So I thank you for that. I will continue to bring you different ones. I've given you a lot from season one of the way we do it, and I will be starting to give you some of the snippets and clips from this season two of the way we do it, where we had an all-star cast and we introduced more celebrities to the scene. So hope you enjoy that as well. So today's theme is, should Tyler Perry make Medea in space? Okay, so I know there's a lot of was happening out there in the marketplace. People are in the news. People are being sued. People are in the courts, and we have a judicial system for that, for people who have a grievance to take it to court and have it adjudicated, right? So those things happen, and as they should. And we have a system where, with the preponderance of the evidence, it can either come into a innocent or guilty plea. So the reason why I say that is I don't want to lose sight, because my space is in the entertainment world, and so I look at myself as an entertainer, and to kind of bring the temperature down for us, in a world that has so much seriousness going on and so much grievance and a lot of pain. Us artists have to develop things so that we can just laugh, and bring the temperature down. Black people have always used humor as a medicine, and I just want to make sure we don't get that lost in what we're doing. And again, you can do two things. If there's something that's it's not supposed to be happening, we have a system that can handle that. But as I would like to say, this is what I'm talking about today. Now, should Tyler Perry make a Madea in space movie? Now, I have to say, and I'm going to be forthcoming, is I enjoy Tyler Perry movies and some of the TV shows. Not all of them, not all the movies, not all the TV shows. I don't think any artist or anybody can bring you something that you love everything that they do. But when you're going to a movie theater, you're at your home, or you're sitting on a couch, and just like when you guys check out my clips on the way we do it, and you start cracking up, you start laughing because you start laughing. It's not about the person next to you. It's not about some kind of critic. And just like comedy, some jokes work, some jokes don't. So don't take it too serious, right? Your job is just to kind of find out what you like, and if it's not harmful, if it's not killing anyone. That's what entertainment is all about, giving you a variety of entertainment. Just like at the same point, I remember I'm a little older than a lot of you guys, but there was this big thing, Tyler Perry versus Spike Lee. And I never looked at it that way. I looked at it as Spike Lee had a lane, Tyler Perry had a lane, and now had two options of products to look at, and pay for and enjoy. And that's what I did. There's Spike Lee stuff that I like. I went to Howard University, so his whole concept of Black institutions, and doing things with it. School days, it just hit home for me personally, because I was in that world when I was at school, and I appreciated it. And there's some of them, and I'm not gonna say which movies I like and dislike with either one of those directors and artists, because that to me is not fair. But the idea is that they did enough volume that I can support them. And when I look at a trailer or I look at a concept that I want to see, then I have the option to actually just go ahead and enjoy myself. Because at the end of the day, that's it. We have two big options that we can do. You can stay home, sit on the couch, watch. Well, actually, I'm sorry, three um, with phones. So you stay at home, get you a nice little flat screen TV, and watch it at home by yourself, family, friends, uh, or you can go to a movie theater with total strangers in a huge environment and see this huge screen, which I say to all of you before you leave this planet, you need to go to see a movie of your liking, of your choice. Because I was pulling up ticket prices today. I'm in California. I live in Altadena, California, and it's $20, right? Just for the ticket. So that's not getting there. That's not taking someone. I was in high school. I don't know, young people. I need you guys to hit me up, or younger people. Do you still Do you still use a movie as part of a date? You meet someone that you like, and you take them out on a date, and you go to a movie, and then afterwards go to a dinner. When I was younger, and we took women out for dates. You go to a movie theater, and just so happens this particular movie theater. I'm originally from Pennsylvania. This particular movie theater, you go to the movies, and then it had a little putt putt miniature golf was right next to it. And then they had you had somewhere to eat, so it was kind of cool because in the movie theater you really can't talk, so you're just kind of sitting next to each other, just getting used to, okay, this is a date. And there's really not a lot of talking. And so what happens to me personally is, the movie itself just kind of brings the tension down, the nerves of just being together. And so it's I think it's important to make sure if you taking someone out that you pick a winner, right? To go to something that you can kind of get into. Don't fall into that. Find a movie that she likes only, right? Because then you're not going to be all engaged, and she's going to sense that. She's going to be like, okay, he just took me to this because it's him. Find something that actually both of you can enjoy. My big thing was, and again, I'm in the horror space as well, so I liked kind of a little bit more scary stuff because you know. I enjoyed it, and so, she would tend to get scared about it, and so she hit your shoulder and stuff like that. Maybe lean in, when you have the. That's why you got to do the popcorn thing, right? Because you got the bucket, that kind of forces her to kind of lean in. So you got that going on, right? So you have the movie, but there's not a lot of talking. You're not really talking to each other. The miniature golf, that was cool because once you leave the movie theater, you're a little more comfortable with this. Now you're on a date, right? She's a little more comfortable with you. You're rocking together. The whole idea is just to have some time together. And it could be awkward. I mean, some of y'all are smoother than others, but sometimes it can be a little awkward. And then what miniature golf does is because you're on and the venue, it's like a little miniature golf course, all cool little obstacles and stuff. Now you get a chance to kind of talk, right? So you still have some kind of activity between you two. You do the miniature golf together, so it's still you as a couple going through the different things. And then that way there's distractions, there's other people on the little miniature golf course, but again, allows you to kind of talk. And then, to really just put the trifecta together, then you can have something to eat after that. Because remember, you snacked in the movie theater, you're still probably a little bit hungry. You burn a little bit off with the miniature golf thing, and then you follow up with some kind of meal. I suggest something light, not something that's heavy that's going to make you sleepy, right? And I wouldn't do too much on the first day. That's a good first day. And probably, I don't know, I'm just throwing this out there that in 2025, a lot of young ladies probably haven't gone to a miniature or miniature golf, little putt golf thing. So it says something about you, right? Pick a cool movie you can kind of get into. Again, you're out. I don't recommend doing anything in your apartments. That's too personal. That's way too quick to bring a stranger in your house. I don't care who hooked you up or whatever referrals. Go get her, or And I know nowadays it might be even safer to just both of y'all Uber to the same spot. I mean, whatever that little protocol is, Uber to the same spot. Have a movie, but find a location that has those multiple things. If you can find those like kind of mini mall places where there's a movie theaters there, some kind of activity, hope a little miniature golf will be great, and then some kind of restaurant where you can have a meal all in that one place. So you parked once, and then you're able to kind of move through a couple of little places. It's gonna set you back a couple of dollars, but it's worth it, right? So, you know, dating is expensive. It always has been, even relative to when you didn't have any money. So I say that. So those are the three different ways that you can experience yourself. Now I'm going to lean in. I know we went through COVID and we stayed at home, but I'm going to lean in. I always think a film, the best place for a film is in a theater, right? Because it just makes it so much bigger than life. And it should be that exceptional thing, right? It just is what it is. Other things that you want to watch at home, but the whole idea, and again, date some of your friends, go see something in a movie theater, and and then there's options for you to do stuff like that. So that's important. So let's getting back to, okay. So some of you are like, oh, Tyler Perry, I don't like his movies. Blah, blah, blah. Fine, right? So you don't have to like his movies. I like some of his movies, right? And I will fully admit that, I'm a little older than most of you guys. So, man, some of his, when I saw, they say, and I was pulling that up. Madea Goes to Jail. They say it's his highest grossing movie. Madea Goes to Jail, right? So the reason why I'm talking about Madea in space is that I look at Madea a little bit differently, right? Madea, and if you just honestly listen to Tyler Perry, he will tell you that there's a couple of women in his life he kind of put together to create that character. Madea is a character. It's not a real person. It's a character that has those of us who enjoy that character busting out laughing. And the whole idea of going to a movie or watching something, I have comedy is just part of my enjoyment. I like horror and I like comedy. And if something makes me bust out laughing, it's worth it to experience that. And if someone else doesn't like me laughing, hey man, that's on y'all. Because if something makes me laugh to the point where you can't breathe, you just like, and sometimes I would watch comedies. I know I want to see a good comedic movie, is that I know I got to see it again, because when I was laughing, I might have closed my eyes or I might have ducked, looked back up, and I missed something. And I know I got to see this movie again. Now, one of my all-time favorites, it's not hardcore comedy in that sense, but I suggest you all watch it, is Boomerang. Boomerang with Eddie Murphy. Oh, one of the best ones. And every time I watch it, I see different things happening. Every time I watch it, I see different. There's little pieces that I haven't looked at before. Some of you are Fridays folks, right? Friday after next Friday, all of those things, right? So these are series of items. Now, because I'm a horror fan, and I kind of like, and again, you got horror and you got the slasher part of horror, and then you got the horror that has like the monsters, right? So I'm sort of more into the monster side of horror. Slashing, to me, it's a little bit more realistic. Someone can just take some knives out in the street and slash up. But what I like about horror movies that have monsters in it, they're more fictional. One of my favorite low budget horror movies is Leprechaun. So I think there's probably like, I don't know, about eight leprechauns, right? So one of my favorite Leprechaun movies is Leprechaun in the Hood. Right? You gotta watch them, right? There's a whole lot of them. And again, the reason why I'm sharing this with you this time is the pure entertainment of watching a movie. And the more ridiculous you put the character in, actually, to me, the better it reinforces that, this is a character, and putting the character in different in different environments that just doesn't make sense. In Living Color did this. I remember when they did like Wrath of Farrakhan, and it was a play off one of the Star Trek movies, and brought us into space. Those of you who love the Kings of Comedy, Cedric the Entertainer does a reenactment of, he says, white people go to the moon, then black people need to go to the moon. And then he kind of recreates a little, I think it's a deuce and a quarter, and driving that deuce and a quarter to the moon, right? So it's like, if they gonna go to the moon, we gonna go to the moon. And it just hit me. I said, one cool thing about Tyler, and again, I have no connection to Tyler other than I enjoy some of his movies. And I just think that Madea in space would be hilarious, right? Just the whole idea of just taking your character and going somewhere else, going somewhere else with it. Let me make sure I get this. There's a little thing, this little bug out the way. While I'm thinking of it, you see this? I have this T-shirt on called "Sleep is for the Rich," and I just want to kind of give a shout out. And I think this is the great thing about going live and doing YouTube, is when you meet other entrepreneurs, and we have to figure out different ways to kind of collaborate. So I was thinking about what I was going to put on today. I thought about this, and I apologize if I forgot the young man's name, but this "Sleep is for the Rich" is a T-shirt that I got when I was in Shreveport, Louisiana. This young entrepreneur brother, I want to say it's Texas Street, but it's the main street in downtown Shreveport. He has a retail store, a retail clothing store in Texas Street in Shreveport, Louisiana. And he gave me this "Sleep is for the Rich." I was down in Shreveport doing some auditions, and where the auditions that I was doing in town was across the street. I went to get something to eat, walked past the store. He was there, fortunately, and we struck up a conversation. I said I was in from California. I was doing some auditioning for my horror movie that I'm doing, and he gave me this shirt. And I was just kind of thinking of, what could I do in return? And I said, you know what? When I was thinking about putting on something today and thinking about, some of the branded stuff that people give you with their logos on it that aren't investing in you, and they're just kind of like, you just doing your thing with them. I said, well, here's a person that I know put the money out to do this shirt, gave it to me for free. That the hospitality, just beautiful Louisiana hospitality. Brother, I forgot your name, but I know that someone is going to go on Texas Street in Shreveport, Louisiana, and then say, hey, I was listening to this brother on air. He was talking about Tyler Perry and Madea in space, and he just stopped what he was saying and gave you a shout out to the shirt. So this, to me, is how we circle the wagons and start doing collective things, is by sharing what we know. And there's been some boycott things that are out there in the world now. Black people are really good at boycotting, but then where do you transfer that energy to, right? Where do you transfer those funds to, right? So if you're going to boycott somewhere that's got clothing, well, where can you put those dollars that is getting reinvested? And this is how we support. And this brother was a young entrepreneur. He was much younger than me. And I felt his energy, and he was doing it the right way. He didn't judge me. He knew I was in town. Like in business, you give things away. You're like, well, you'll give it away. I give $15 for it. Well, in business, it's a write-off expense. This is part of his promotional material that he gives out into the universe, and he's able to take that off his business taxes. So it's all a part of business. And now look, here I am a year later, now on air on YouTube, talking about his shirt, "Sleep is for the Rich." I love what he's trying to do here. Sleep is for the rich. So it's a great little title, great little tag, and I just want to just make sure I shouted him out because just like you guys, when you're starting to just talk about simple things, simple collaborations, things that we can just easily do. What you'll find out when I go live on stuff, I don't do a lot of complicated kind of conversations, right? So what I try to do, and I maybe that's from my teaching background, is to give people practical stuff we can do where we are with what we have. There was a motivational speaker when I was in college, and I was coming out of college and started my little professional life, and I was working for someone, but I knew I wanted to do something more. And now I'm really gonna tell my age now because I had Les Brown had some motivational tapes. I think you can listen to Les Brown on YouTube to be quite honest. Les Brown's brother, motivational speaker, really provided some good energy to self-motivate you to do what you need to do, right? Because in Black culture, we're not as entrepreneurial as we should be, and sometimes, and not to blame any of our family and stuff, we're hard workers, but we're normally working for people, hardworking. But the entrepreneurial thing, we have to just kind of break that habit and do that. And so, and look at the kinds of things that we can do. So, and sometimes you just got to do the work on your own and find motivational stuff. And I think it's on YouTube. So you just put your headphones on, pull up YouTube. YouTube is great for just getting all kind of stuff, as you know. I mean, I have a home, and something messes up, I really can't afford to bring in something. Now, a couple things I won't do in my house on my own is plumbing and electrical work. Right? I'm not playing around with those things. Now, little things like light switches, the washers in your sink or your tub, when it starts to leak, drip a little bit, you can pull out the little thing and put the little washer in. That's fine. But I'm not going under there cutting no pipes, and I'm not tracing no wires and all that kind of stuff. Let the professionals do that. Trust me. It's better. And then you just do the small maintenance things that are around that. So for those of you who have homes, aspiring homes, or those of you who now your parents are a little bit older and you got to come, or your grandparents as well too, and you got to come back home and help out, because stuff's getting a little bit older now that you're kind of grown. You've been out of there and you got your own little place, or you got an apartment where the apartment's doing it for you, but your home places need to have that done. The little things add up, right? So all the little things that you can go to your local place to get the stuff. But just me personally, electrical and plumbing, let the professionals, and there's Black electricians and Black plumbers in your neighborhoods. You got to call around. If you don't know anything, call a church. Church has people come too, so you can do stuff. It's just habits, right? Habits of just trying to stay local, with a lot of your stuff before you kind of going out. Stay local in your community. Just ask around for a lot of things. A lot of your homeowners that have been in your neighborhood for a long time, they're going to know these people, right? Because they have them come home. So see, these are just easy things for you to do. Okay, so now back to okay, Andre, you really got me on this Madea and space thing, right? So again, I'm talking to two different audiences. For those of you who don't like Madea and done with Tyler, I'm not talking to you. That's this conversation is not about you, right? So that's an opinion in the comments. I'm not talking about you. I'm just talking about those who enjoy Tyler Perry stuff, and in this particular case, and just enjoy the theatrics. I forgot the one I was watching, and you guys can maybe tell me. Put it in the comment section, because I'll be going live every week. So when you see this, just know the next time I'm up, come in, man, and we'll have a conversation. But I forgot the one that when he's in the Cadillac and he runs into that fast food place because the girls act crazy. I forgot which one that was, man. He's tore it up. It was so ridiculous that I was just on the ground. That was hilarious, right? So again, I wanted to kind of share what I was thinking there. And for that to move on. And the reason why I say that, in business, the more successful movies that he has, television shows that he has. And again, just like any smart producer, they're going to see which ones hit and which ones didn't hit. And a smart producer is going to continue to do the ones that hit. So if he's doing a lot and you're thinking like, man, who are these people? You need to actually recalibrate on your own who his audience is, right? And if you're just scratching your head, that means you need to do a little bit more of your homework, right? So, for example, where is the most Black people? What state is the most Black people in the United States of America? Like what state? And if you don't know off the top of your head, and if you're talking major cities and then saying those states, I was born in Philadelphia, so you're saying Philly, or, meaning Pennsylvania, you're saying Chicago, meaning Illinois, you saying Detroit, meaning Michigan, you saying even Atlanta, right? When I was at BET years ago, the number one state that had the most Black people in it, you're never gonna guess. But I'm here, I'm not gonna hold you guys with it. Come back next week and I'll tell you, no. It used to be Mississippi. The majority of Black people in the United States of America resided in Mississippi. If you've never been to Mississippi, you don't know anyone from Mississippi, that's where the majority of Black people come from, Mississippi. Now that has changed. And the last time I checked, it is now Texas. The majority of Black people are in Texas. Now you're not going to see that anywhere other than knowing it. Now I say that because now it needs to trigger something in your mind, right? What is Texas Black culture? What is Mississippi Black culture? Both these states are still in the South. The majority of Black people in America are still in the South. They're not in the North, right? My father's from South Carolina. My mother's from Virginia. I was born and was raised in Pennsylvania. So nothing has really changed in that. All of these years, Black people are still in the South. And the reason why I say that is you need to take trips down there. You need to go, you need to see your folks. You need to see the people, your people, right? Now before you can critique them, you need to see how Black people are moving day to day and how we can move ourselves forward, but recognize where we are and not be ashamed of where we are, because Black people in America we've been surviving under great odds. So you can't knock that. And then you can just kind of see where, remember, for those of you hip hop heads, remember West Coast, East Coast, and then when hip hop went south, it really hasn't left the South, right? You got these little spurts every once in a while other than the South. But once hip hop landed in the South, man, it's there. Right? Well, it makes sense now that I told you where Black people are, right? And whatever your cultural aspirations are, there's a reason why, Tyler Perry's Southern boy, right? I believe Tyler Perry was born in Louisiana, I believe, right? And he's still, he's got he's connected to Hollywood, but his home base is in Atlanta. So he's in Georgia. So he's still in the South, right? So I'm in California now, and I grew up in Pennsylvania, so I'm not knocking that. Just like I don't knock my relatives that are down south. And I happen to not only go to Howard University, but I also went to the University of Houston. So, Washington, D.C. is technically in the South, right? So Washington, D.C., remember the Mason-Dixon line is where Maryland is. Maryland is above Washington, D.C. So I went to college both times in the South, although being born in Philadelphia and raised right outside of Philadelphia. So in the North, but everything I can see, and even, well, it's funny, but even in California, I'm in Southern California near LA. So still in the South, right? But I say all that because those of you who are going to start to do creative stuff, entertainment stuff, You need to know where your target audiences are. My degree is in marketing, so I understand it. The more you focus in on who your target customer is, the better, because they're going to respond to you. And once you realize what that tool is, you're going to have a lot of critics telling you what to do, but there's nothing more successful than success and being able to stay focused, um, know who your audience is. Now, the debate is, do you just stay where your audience is, or do you over time start to move them, start to elevate their artistic experience? Now, that I'm not going to push back on that, because I think that makes sense. You meet people where they are, and then as an artist, you start to develop their skills. I thought about that when I was with my nephew. My nephew was big into hip hop, and they were, at that time, hip hop was doing a lot of people's music, right? And when he started listening to certain kind of tracks, I'm like, oh, that track is from such and such, from the 70s and 80s. He didn't believe it. And so then I played the original track from the original artist, and he's like, whoa, I thought that was original. No, but I like the fact that when hip hop doing that sampling was reintroducing old school R&B. I think they say James Brown is the most sampled one, but go James Brown. That's hardcore, right? So it gives us an opportunity for you to have that conversation with your older siblings, your parents, your grandparents, about those processes, and how it's connected. And then what artists need to do today is just continue to recognize and share with you that's where they got that. I remember an interview a long time ago, Snoop Dogg was saying, in his home, so it was a lot of R&B music, right? So I think it's important for artists to continue to share with you where those inspirations came from when they were at home, and how, for those of you who have children and you want to steer them in the right direction, start playing good stuff at the crib and they'll pick up on it, right? Start, you know, man, if you still have some of your your albums, whoo, man, maybe some CD players, take it out of the garage, clean that puppy up, put it up, and play that music. If you could go to the place where they sell instruments and old stuff, and find you a CD player and a speaker and a receiver, and go where you see some CDs, because there's some stuff on CDs and on vinyl that you're never gonna, it's not gonna be on the radio or anywhere else. Bring that back into the house. Play that when your kids is running around, because they're going to absorb that sound, and they're just going to know what a rich sound sounds like because they heard it when they were at home. And so you don't have to lecture them every day. But if you playing, the Ohio Players, and you're playing Parliament Funkadelic, for those of you who know what I'm talking about, when you playing that stuff, you don't have to explain it. Play more Black love songs, man. Just put it out there. The kids will pick it up, and so they'll get a sound for that. And some of those kids who then become artists themselves will start writing lyrics like that because they heard it from the house. That's simple. That's some simple stuff. And I guarantee you, Black folks, there are some family members. The next time you're in this is the summer, 4th of July picnic, ask around. Some of your aunties, your uncles, they got albums in the garage. They got an old player. All you got to do is come over there, clean it up, play it. And, I can't speak for them, but I would be shocked that they weren't excited that their nieces and their nephews and their young cousins are coming over there wanting to listen to that. And I'm sure they can tell you some great stories when they were younger, playing that music as well. Now here you've bonded together, because I don't think any Black people throw out albums. They might be upstairs in the attic, in the basement, in the garage, but I don't know. Y'all could tell me in the comments, man. Tell me if if you know, black people just be throwing out stuff. Now, I will say my 8-track tapes, I'm just gonna be honest with you, because no, I ain't got no 8-track. 8-track tapes, if you've never even heard that concept, don't even worry about it. But folks who understand. 8-track tapes, yeah, those are gone. I don't have none of them. But I got CDs, and I didn't really have albums, but at my mom's house, we got albums at my mom's house. My sister loved albums. When she came back home to stay with my mom, she brought her albums back. So there's some albums back at the crib. And when I go home for the holidays, I want to see if that record player's still operational as well. But being in Philly, luckily we have a couple of FM stations that likes to play some of the old school stuff. So I am spoiled with that. However, though, I got a whole stack of CDs behind me. Actually, DVD players too. It's like all that stuff, man. You don't throw out. And if you don't have it, I'm telling you, it's in the house somewhere, because as we constantly upgrade to new stuff, we just, the DVD player with all those DVDs we bought, those laser discs. I remember one of my aunts lived in Misawa, Japan. She worked at the Air Force Base, United States Air Force Base in northern Japan. She was in charge of the base of the PX, which is like sort of like their store where you can buy stuff. So she was a purchaser of that. So we went to go visit her, and she had laser discs, and it was just like cool, right? So sake and laser discs. For those of you who can drink, y'all understand sake. So, and this is that cool aunt. I don't know how many of y'all have aunts, but that one little aunt that your mom and your dad probably don't want you to hang out with over the summer, because that one aunt is the live one. Well, I had that aunt, right? So that aunt could drink me under the table, just go for it. It has me in stitches. That's the great thing about extended family, and just, humor. I mean, you don't need to go out a lot to find humor, because it's in your own family. But I digress. So yes, find those things at your crib. Find those things that you can use to bring that art form back, right? And enjoy stuff. Plant the seeds when you're doing things. Science fiction, I was a big Planet of the Apes, Star Wars. Saw that at a movie theater as well. Movies can be expensive, so plot the ones, and I would hold off. I would be like, I'm looking at the trailers, like, is that a $20 $40 movie that I want to do? And I would be very discriminative. Ooh, is that a word? Well, I would discriminate on what I was to select. So it had to be like, it was sort of kind of like one of those Wakanda moments, right? There's just certain times that you're like, I'm just going to have to do it. I liked the first Wakanda better than the second one, but I still saw both. But it's all about support. So Madea in space. Should he do the movie? Well, I've been talking to you about it for what? What's my time here? I've been going on 40 minutes. I've been talking to you for a while about it. And yes, my answer, 38 minutes. My answer is yes. And my answer is yes, because there's other producers who are not Black who pick up on a series. They have a strong character and they continue to develop it. And one of my examples was the Leprechaun series. And if any of you guys saw it, there's so many of those Leprechauns. Leprechaun 1, 2, 3, Leprechaun in the Hood, all kind of. I think Leprechaun went in space too. So I see that as the perfect connection. Now, there's an older movie. Where did I pulled up? Oh, Ernest. 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 This is a corny white guy. Same thing. Ernest went to jail. Ernest goes to da-da-da. Ernest goes to that. So I wanted to kind of give you examples of why I think this particular character in the Tyler Perry portfolio works well with just Madea it could be Madea in Egypt. You know what I mean? All kind of places. But I just think the reason why I picked space is because for whatever reasons, Black people just not there's not a lot of us doing stuff in space. If you go on the networks and you go to your free sites and watch shows, we're always like, we're grounded in an urban environment typically, but we never venture out to other places, right? So I'm just wanting to stretch, because sometimes maybe that might be why we get a little tired, because we're recycling the same area, and again, producers are going to continue to do things in those areas because they're thinking that's what you want. And so this is where the artist and the producer and the customer base has to have an arrangement, so that every once in a while we're going to stretch it and you got to go with us. So if Tyler Perry does Madea in space and it's a hit, now other producers don't have to do it in the same style of a Tyler Perry doing Madea, but now space is in. Just like, remember Cedric Entertainment's like, white people go to the moon, black people going to go to the moon. So we should be doing movies and genres that are just as entertaining as anyone else. We could do it just as good. That's why I think I talked to you about this before when I was talking to you about Jordan Peele. That's what I enjoyed about Jordan Peele, because Jordan Peele reinforced that the horror genre is something that we should entertain as well. And from the response, not only black people, but just horror fans in general, including black people, went to the movie theaters and saw. Now, can you debate Get Out, horror, not horror? Well, I look at it from just the horror standpoint, as it's a horrific thing that's happening. I'm a little bit more conservative about saying race is horror in the horror genre, as opposed to racism being horrific in a drama. See, that's just a bias that I have. However, not enough of a bias for me not to support Jordan Peele in the movie, and not that I didn't enjoy it, because that was some the TSA guy. Sorry, Jordan, but the TSA guy, that for me. that was me. When you watch a movie and you're like, okay, who are you in the movie? That's me. My boy's like, all right, man, you're dating a white girl, okay, but did you do all your due diligence? Do the bigger, because I had someone similar to that when I was at Howard. He brother was at the University of Maryland, and he was dating this Italian girl, and he was a little kind of uneasy about it. I'm like, well, number one, that's like, if you date her, you date her, man. That's date. However, you just gotta know everything, right? It's like you gotta know the bigger picture. It's like, you go home, she's from Italian family. What kind of Italian family does she got? It's just, because there's a couple different types of Italian families that it could go left on you, right? So just know what you're getting into before you do it, right? And just know the signals. And maybe it's like, maybe you shouldn't go over there, right? So that just had me dying, because that's, I don't know of you, but we all have that person, and sometimes it's us. We always have that friend. It's like, Trey, you sure, man? It's like, I don't know, man. This is, and just let's do it. And you act crazy, but thank God you have a friend like that. It's a ride or die. So I enjoyed that, and to me, I want to see more of those. So that was a little bit more on the deeper side of Jordan Peele. Madea is just, to me, just slap happy, funny. If you just want to have a good old time cracking up, it's a character, and that's what I wanted to make sure. And again, he doesn't need a lecture from me, but I just wanted to reinforce, because sometimes we're looking at Madea as a person and as a real person. Like my aunt that I drank with, partying in Japan with, my aunt's not Madea, right? And so my aunt's a real person, right? My aunt's funny. My aunt, she's from Virginia too. She knows how to move with a gun, but my aunt's not a character, right? So, and I know Madea is a character. So for me, just to reduce the confusion, let's just continue to let Madea be a character, and let's just and that's just my own bias. Let's let Madea go to other kinds of adventures, the old 1950s movies where they started with like Frankenstein or the Wolfman. Those characters that you saw, the Wolfman in Manhattan, you know, the Wolfman in meets the Mummy, you know, just silly different kinds of things. But again, I just wanted to reinforce that sometimes we just want to have just pure entertainment, something not buffoonery, but just entertainment, something funny. And if it's a character and you put this character in a place that you just never saw before, you know, I got $20 to spend. I want to enjoy myself, have some good laughs, leave it there, right? And if it's someone that it's on a date and you know, I just want to just let the humor, because as you know, women love guys with humor, and if you don't have a lot of humor in your life, at least the thing that you're doing is humorous, at least laugh about. And the good thing about a movie like that is you can come out of the movie both of you liking it or disliking it. Now, this is the recommendation say I would say to my nephew is don't go too hard on the disliking it if she liked it, right? That's just dating error 101, man. You got to be smart, right? It's like, but you want to be able to put, you know, a little piece of an in there because remember it's a date. You're trying to find what you guys got in common, you know, and it's not a takedown, right? So just be light with the criticism. Your goal with a date is to get another what date. So you might in that conversation, you might find out she really kind of likes something else and starts triggering your mind. Something else pops up, you call it back and say, hey, such and such is coming out. You know, maybe let's check that one out. And then she's like, wow, okay, he's you know, he went from that kind of a humor, but he's kind of paying attention because what she realizes is you paid attention to the last conversation, right? Not just what you want to do. You actually listened to that last conversation and you formulated something and then you presented it. That doesn't work all the time. No, but it will work because what you're going to start to do is have what? Listening skills, right? You listening, right? Listening skills works in your social life. Listening skills works when you're doing products and you're doing stuff for people. Find out what your customer base is looking for. And then again, as an artist, you want to stretch them. Now, the easiest way to stretch your hardcore audience is take that character that they love, where's Madea, and move Madea. That audience, like me, because she cracks me up, I'm gonna go with you. It's just a couple of dollars to me. I'm gonna go. So Madea is going to space. I'm gonna go to space. If you take Madea, Madea meets the mummies, or Madea meets some werewolves, or Madea and the Walking Dead. I mean, it was sort of like that with Boo, right? And again, see, I'm constantly sharing with you. This is not like fake stuff. I can go from watching Boo to watching Malcolm X to watching Amistad. It's all entertainment for me, different modes. Now, I think I mentioned to you in an earlier episode, but you know, what I don't I don't like slasher stuff that much, and I'm not really comfortable with movies that are around like things that are real, like for example, The Exorcist. Okay, so my father's Roman Catholic. My mom is Baptist. I was raised Baptist. I was raised with a Bible. Now the Bible version that I'm reading now is a little different than the one that I was raised with, but it's still a Bible. My sister, when she lived in Washington D.C., lived around the block from. No, I'm sorry. Oh, my sister. She gonna get me. I was about to tell a lie. It's not my sister. My cousin lived in Washington, D.C. If you ever watched The Exorcist, the original Exorcist, there's a scene where the priest falls down these steps outside in Georgetown. Well, I had a cousin living around the block from where the steps were. I did not go see her. And I was at Howard. If you ain't thinking about Howard, Georgetown is just a section of Washington, D.C., right? So nice restaurants. Um, you can live there. It's a little more affluent, but it's a section of Washington, D.C. And so being at Howard to Georgetown was no big deal. Matter of fact, when I was working at BT, our main corporate offices were in that Georgetown area, like 34th Street down there in Georgetown. So, but not nowhere near where those places were. That's an odd thing. If you ever go to DC, it's like the corporate headquarters of BT was in Georgetown. So when we would walk out for lunch, it was like we added to the Black population like quick. It was like, whoa, where these 10 people come from, right? So we're sitting right there. That was really cool. When I first started, we were down there in Georgetown in this renovated they were like homes, but they renovated them into like an office park. So it was very eclectic. It didn't even look like it was office buildings. It looked like homes. But in that area, they were trying to keep the aesthetics of what Georgetown was founded on. So even if you were in a commercial space that used to be a residential home, they would make sure that you kept the outer surface that looked like they're residential, even though you might have gutted the inside to keep that kind of style that Georgetown has. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, to get back, so things that are kind of, from in my mind, it can be real, because folklore, from my understanding, a lot of folklore is based on real events, but it's been translated or interpreted to do some other things. But it is hard. Something happened in them swamps, right? Now, what you calling it, or if it was just a rogue alligator, or whatever it was, there's some evil spirits, and you could formulate that an alligator that's got a bad tooth in the middle of a swamp could be an evil spirit. So so that whole the Bible stuff that pops out the Bible, I'm like, I'm really a little antsy about that kind of stuff. So other than that, I'm pretty much, I pretty much can kind of go around the board. I'm not too big on musicals either. So since I'm sharing, I'm not really a big musical. The two top musical films for me is Purple Rain and Grease. Those two are like iconic ones for me. It's hard for me to go to a musical that's a film. Now, if I'm invited to a play that's on a stage, when I was a kid, we used to go to New York. New York's known for plays, and one of the plays that I enjoyed was, I take that back. There's a third one, The Wiz, Purple Rain. And what was the third one I just said? The Wiz, and Grease. Those three, I can watch. I can watch this. Now, people got really kind of upset because The Wiz was a version of The Wizard of Oz, which I call Wiz. It's like the soul version of Wizard of Oz. But I don't care what those people think. I enjoy it. And if you can watch The Wiz now, and the soundtrack to The Wiz, off the chain. You can win. This is with the Crows. Come on, man. It's just crazy. So this is the kind of stuff that we have in Black culture. That's just, we need to go for it. So that's what I'm saying to you guys is I want to see something like this. So let's put out in the universe. Tyler Perry, I know you got a lot on your plate, a lot of stuff's happening, but let's do something. And I know you're starting to delegate and have other people starting to do, show run some of your shows that you're doing. But me personally, I like you to do something. Take Madea into space, and let's just take her. There's a couple of Madea in space, and what did I just say? I thought it was kind of now that I'm talking about. That's why I like to start with a subject and kind of move on. Madea Madea with The Walking Dead, or Madea with some zombies, and then take Madea to the pyramids. Take Madea, just Madea underwater. There's just all kinds of places you could do fun stuff that you can do with what I would say is an iconic character and just reinforces to the fan base and even to the critics or the haters out there that Madea is a character. Madea is not a person. And I think how you just kind of reinforce that is to have Madea move on. Second thing I wanted to talk to you guys, and because I just saw it out, and again, it's one of these, the whole idea of my channel, the way we do it, is there's the way they do it and there's the way we do it, right? And so that's like a little mantra when you come up to my channel. Please subscribe and come on in, because there's some very talented people that we did some old school stuff, and I will continue to do live things like this as topics come up. But a current topic that's out, a producer that I think that I give big props to, because Jason Blumhouse is one who kind of resurrected the horror genre, the low budget horror genre, which is an area that I have a passion for. And he's been able to get positive results in it. And typically what that means is then other investors will look for similar properties in that genre to invest in. So if there's something like that for us horror fans to support them, because of Jason Blumhouse, he introduced us to Jordan Peele. And so I want to continue in that mantra and in that masterpiece of exposing, doing some really cool horror stuff. So he's come out, I think last year. So last year that Megan came out, the original Megan, the little crazy robotic puppet. And it was funny. And now he's come out with Megan 2.0. And my whole thing when looking at that is like, okay, it's sort of like me in a Barbie doll. It's like, if I have a little niece, do I give my little niece, when I give her a Barbie doll, what Barbie doll will I give her? Now, looking at me, my niece would be black, right? And so what kind of Barbie doll would I give my niece? That's not offending anyone, but it's like, because what I want the dolls to do is reinforce, the images that I want to make sure my niece has, right? And again, in America, I just wanted to be very comfortable in her cocoa butter, black, dark chocolate skin, whatever it is, right? So I'm gonna give her a black Barbie doll, right? Because I want to reinforce it. Now she can have other Barbie dolls as well, because it's all about, in America, there's a lot of different ones. But the first one that I give her, I think is important. That reinforces who she is. And then she's like, well, my friend Tina, she's Hispanic, or she's white, or she's Asian. Then I throw in a couple other dolls to reinforce them, right? Put your people first. So when I'm thinking of, the first thing that came to my mind with Megan 2.0, it's like, what would the black version of Megan be, right? And I started thinking, like, if I were to do a robot, what would I call that robot? I think I wrote down, like, would I call a black robot, a little black girl robot, Megan? Yeah, now some of you might say yes. And I started playing around with some names, common names in the black world, because there is data on popular names with black people, right? There is data for that. So that's a cultural thing, right? So one of the big things with me is culture, right? So that's why we're able to do things. When we talk about humor, people talk about white comedians and black comedians, and then there's comedians who can kind of translate across the board. That normally they're touching a certain style of culture that doesn't have race to it. It's kind of raceless. Who comes to mind for me on the white side coming black is like a Gary Owen, right? He understands black culture, the way he delivers. He's not trying to be black. He's still a white guy. Have you ever seen him? He's a very pale, pasty white guy. So he's not losing his whiteness, but his cultural lens is broader. So he can kind of have that Bill Burr, same way. It's cultural lens, because who Bill Burr has married into a culture, his lens is a little bit broader, right? So it translates well. Black artists and black people have have had to do that a lot in America, right? We've always had to live in two worlds. That's the very interesting thing that's happening now. Black people, we live in a black world and then we live in a white world, right? And the terminologies that we use a lot of times is what we call code switching. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. And I'm sure a lot of your white friends don't understand what that is because they don't have to do it. So code switching is the same time where, I can say certain things to our folks that, I'm down, and then I switch the words to the white folks because that's what they understand. And I don't kind of reverse the two. If I invite them into our culture, then I invite them into it intact. I don't change collard greens into something else. If I invite them to my house and we got cornbread and red beans and rice and collard greens, chicken, and some sweet potatoes, and some white people come over, then that's what they're eating. I'm not gonna revert that to something that they eat because that's not how we eat. So I'm not gonna change that here. I'm gonna offer them my hospitality. But in the world of code switching, it's just how we have to navigate, the world. I use code switching a lot, even with like the police, right? I say words to them that makes them feel like they're important, right? Because the goal is to move on, right? Yeah, they're easy, right? So you just got to know how to do those things, and that's just those languages. Anytime you have bosses, or you're working in a mixed group, there's certain conversations I don't even bring up. It's none of their business. And there's certain people, even black people, who have code switched the other way and never switch back. So I leave them alone, right? So like they code switch to the majority, and they're there, and they just in that world where I know how to like come back and be like, yo, I'm not gonna say brother man to some folks who don't understand what that means. I come back and we had those kind of conversations, right? And so they're like, oh, okay, and sometimes when you see each other, you just know when, excuse me, brother, can I ask your advice? See that there's some code switching in there because he's letting you know we're in a majority environment, but there's an emotional connection. And I forgot who said it, but black people in the room, if you go into a room and there's one other black person in the room, it is your duty to go over there and eyeball that other black person. I mean, what I mean by eyeball, you just got to let them know that the two of us are in this room. Now, white folks never even think about doing some of that because they don't have to. They're in the majority of the time. So that's not even a mechanism they have to do. We go to a new school, or you play. I played football in high school, and you're the other team is warming up, and you see they got a couple of black players. You know what I'm saying? So you're already eyeballing, what's happening. That's just the normal things that we do as a minority. I don't know, what are we, like 13% in this country? So we're always a minority unless we're in our own our population groups. But typically, we live with each other, but a lot of times we got to venture out to work, venture out to school. If you're going to college, then you're with the majority people. You got to communicate with them so they understand what's going on. And then you got to communicate with your own people. And that's kind of funny. when our people go code switch and they get lost over there, and they code switched, and that was it, and they gone, never to come back, right? So I'm like, that's not gonna be a successful tool for long, because sometimes you got to circle the wagons, and then they're out there. It's like you're in a boat and they out there, you in a bigger boat, and black people in this boat, and they out there in a little paddle boat, because that code switching got them out there by themselves, and we looking at them like, what y'all doing? You ain't, you ain't switched back over here, so we ain't got nothing to do with you. Sometimes you just gotta let them go, right? And so that's why it's really important for you just to be able to kind of segue to that, or you're gonna get stuck in those areas, and then Black folks is gonna be like, all right, all of us know how to code switch, and all of a sudden you decided, oh, you don't need the code switch because you got it. Well, 9 times out of 10, man, that train goes up and that train goes down, and then you're like, "Phew." But for the most part, black people, we're so accepting, when people get alienated, and I hate to get political, but we all back in the day, remember when Jay-Z was talking about OJ? It's like, okay, right? Because OJ went over there. It's like, I'm not black, I'm OJ. Whoo, that's that code switch that stayed over there. But then what happened when he got in trouble? Where was his first interview when OJ got in trouble? BET. And how do I know it was at BET? Because I was there at BET when he did it. It happened in California. We had 2 locations for the interview. One was a fake location because it was very serious at the time about bombs and all kind of stuff. But when it got heated, whoop, he back to us, right? And one thing, and again, it gets a little frustrating, but I think it's a part of our survival mechanism is that when people go out who look like us and don't and switch that code and become Kablasians and all kind of stuff, then all of a sudden some go down, and then that group sees them as black people, and we're like, uh, you know, or we just wish we just ignore some code switching because like, no, we're not ain't gonna let you do that, right? And so I think that's just kind of an interesting thing. There's a self hate in there. Everybody's got to have their own little lane. But black people are resilient, man. We still here. Remember in Color Purple, the character is like, I might be black, I may be ugly, but I'm here. Right? That's what Whoopi Goldberg's character said. I was like, wow, I don't know. I'm Aquarian. I don't know why that stuck out to me, but it just stood out to me. It's like, you know what? No matter what y'all do, we here, right? And we just taking them lashes and keep throwing up the obstacles, and we just overcome them, right? So there's a resilience there. So I want to continue to encourage that kind of resilience and that kind of effort. And I just want to constantly, like from week to week, kind of give you guys stuff. I'm not going to get into the. I'm kind of staying in the entertainment world as much as possible, in the business world as much as possible, and just give you simple anecdotes, simple things that you can do tomorrow to move things forward and to encourage those potential producers, writers, and directors out there to keep moving forward. And I know that a lot of times what you're hearing in a lot of these trials is that unfortunately some of these victims are feeling that they have no options. So that's why they continue to take the abuse that they're taking. Now, I have to push back on that from this standpoint. We have to let everyone know there's options. If someone is giving you an unrealistic option to do something, right? They're a gatekeeper and they're saying, in order to do this, you got to do this to get it. And it's something that's not acceptable to you, then do your own. If you're constantly getting put in a scenario as an actor to do something that you don't want to do, then it might take you longer, but we got too much technology, man. You got phones, you've got YouTube, you've got laptops. Do your own movie, star in your own movie. It might take you a little longer. Get a little part-time job, save up the money and do it so you can do it and get it out there in the universe. Let that be the movie, as opposed to subjecting yourself to some of this nonsense of insecure people who didn't have the ability to attract you the right way or respect the craft the right way and are using their power. Remember, there's weak people everywhere, right? And they're going to take advantage of things because it just masks their weakness. Well, is it unfair? Yes, but that's just the way it is. So what you got to do is you have to push back on that. Now, I was fortunate when I started at BET in Washington D.C. And remember, I have to preface this because I started in cable. Cable wasn't necessarily looked favorably upon by the broadcast people, right? And at BET, when I was on the East Coast, I was at the corporate level. So I didn't really have to engage directly into the music. We were pushing a lot of the music videos, music shows at that time. But I didn't have to. I was a budget director at that point. So I didn't have to go into that music world entrenched inside the music shows to be able to do what I did. I stayed at the corporate level of the shows, right? And when I moved to Burbank, California for BET, then I was on the programming side. We were in Burbank. If you've ever been to California, Burbank is north of Hollywood, over the hill, right? It's its own place. When you ever come out here to visit, when you go to Burbank, that's the home of NBC. That's the home of Disney. It's in Burbank. It's not in Hollywood. Hollywood is where the studios are, and it's entrenched in Hollywood. So I was close to Hollywood, but still separate. So I did not have to subject myself to the Hollywood machine from that standpoint. So at BET in Burbank, my livelihood wasn't connected to knowing agents, knowing managers, knowing people in the business, and going to all of those events and have to do all that kind of networking, all that kind of stuff. I was insulated from that. I didn't have to do that. When I did development for BET, when I was a VP of development, I didn't have to do all that kind of stuff, right? So I was near Hollywood, but not of Hollywood. So, but a lot of my friends who are in the business had to go down there into that world. And I understand. And those parties, Diddy ain't the only one to be throwing parties, right? So, but you have to be smart about what you're doing, and don't let your passion for what you're doing be so strong that you will do anything for it, because you'll regret that. I'm telling you now, don't even go down that road. You will regret it. And how do you know you're going to regret it? Because later on, then that's when you start to do things. That's when you start to use things and try to forget the thing that you did to get that. So it's you just got to be. It's like you see in front of you what you always want to do in life, and they dangle this thing in front of you for it. You have to just be disciplined about that stuff. I always thought about the actors who worked in Hollywood, but they live somewhere else, right? It's like, yeah, such an actor, but they live in Wyoming, or like Matthew McConaughey is one of my favorites because I like a lot of sports movies. So We Are Marshall, So, I grew up in Pennsylvania, God family football. And so, but he's in Texas, but he's in Hollywood, but he doesn't spend his time. And I always wonder, like, why do people are in Hollywood, but then they live somewhere else? Now I get it, right? They go into Hollywood, they handle their business, and they get out, right? Because there's just certain things they just don't want to do. And that's in life anywhere. You can get tempted every day. Young people on the street coming from your house to school and from your school to your house. That distance between going to school and your home, there's a whole lot of stuff that can happen during that time. We all know. If you're on a public bus, you're on the train, it's a whole lot of stuff. Every day of our lives is constant choices to make. Do I sneak down that? Do I take that, young ladies? Do I go by myself through that little alley because it's a shortcut? Or do I just take the extra couple of minutes and just stay on that broad street where people can see me and go around the corner, right? That's a choice. I say stay on the broad street, right? Every day, we're constantly making choices. So understand that with your career, and just understand you just got to be disciplined about that, right? Understand that this decision that you make. Now, here's a scientific thing that when I was teaching, And when students used to snap at me, I would take it personal. Then I found out that the frontal, the cortex doesn't fuse, the front lobes doesn't fuse in your brain to around 25. And what that means is up until 25, we tend to use our emotional brain, right? Oh, I don't like Mr. Brown. He's full of crap. Blah, 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 blah. He's making us do all this work. That's your emotional brain, right? When that brain fuses at 25, then that brain's like, oh, he's giving us a lot of work, but some of those things I might be able to use in my profession. Some of those tools, okay, he's done that before, and he's sharing what he's actually done and been successful with. Yeah, it's some extra work, but man, I could take that with me. And I'll take the three. He said 5 things. I'm just going to take these 3 because I love 2. I don't need them, but I'm going to take 3 of them. That's the difference in those brains. That first brain, boom, that's that emotional brain. So I don't get upset when y'all snap at me. I was like, how old are you? Oh, 24. It's like, okay, right. I don't, because that's just science, right? But why is that? But you're like, okay, well, why should we have a brain like that? Well, guess what? The emotional brain, and that's why we tend to do things when we're young, right? That emotional brain, if you're on the East Coast, that emotional brain is going to get you to pack up your little suitcase, get on a bus, and go to California with $50 in your pocket. That's that emotional brain. Your rational brain will be like, nah, I can't go cross country with $50. What am I going to do, right? So then you're going to stay on the East Coast, and you're going to make some other decision and regret not going, right? So there's a reason why when you're younger, you tend to, puppy love, first loves, lose everything, lose your mind, especially like 16. All of us have been 16 before. That's a tricky age, right? 16 to 17, boy, things are just, ooh, man, parents just got to know, you storming out the house, just doing all crazy stuff. Well, because, the brain ain't fused, man. You're on emotions. Like, it's the love of my life, and I'm going to Canada with him. However, for us creative people, you need that emotional brain to start you on that path, to do the unrealistic, because everybody's going to tell you, oh, you can't make a living doing that. And who do you think you are? Why do you think you can write? There's 10,000 scripts written every year. And why is your one script called Get Out going to work? That ain't going to work. And then next thing you know, we all watch and Get Out, right? So I say that just to say there is a reason for these things, right? Now, under 25, also that emotion, when them people are going to take advantage of that, right? Because you're thinking about your emotion. Oh, this is going to help me in my career. Oh, I'll get over it. Hey, it is what it is. This is what you got to do. See, that's the emotion, trying to rationalize why someone is taking advantage of it, right? Because if we can put in some kind of rational discourse, then it's cool. No, it's not cool. And now I've let you all know, understand what brain you're working with right now. So if you're 25 and under, you're working with your emotional brain. So just know that about yourself, that you jump out, you just got to overcompensate and say, oh, I don't know if you got grandparents that would say to you, when you were younger, or even your parents, you might be yelling at your best friend since you knew since kindergarten. I hate them and blah, blah, blah. And they just tell you, just take a nap or go sleep. And if you think the same way in the morning, okay, fine. You can get rid of your best friend that you knew forever. And then you wake up the next morning and you all calm down. You ain't lost your mind, right? That's that emotional brain, right? That your parents know, and especially your grandparents. Your grandparents just lay your little behind down somewhere and just calm down. Yeah, what here, take a taffy. Just can you go out there and go out and pick some strawberries for your grandma? They know how to just diffuse all that kind of stuff. And if you don't have grandparents, man, grandparents are great. Your parents the same way. But just know that, and let's say you have nobody, just know 0 to 25. Ooh, that emotional brain, and just know That's what you're dealing with. And when you're dealing with that emotional brain, you have to talk to yourself, like, ooh, I do an exercise in class when I tell you either you're a rabbit, you're a lion, you're a hawk, or a turtle. Oh, let me clear this little thing out. So, since you guys know Madea in space. Okay. So I did this little exercise and it determines if you're a hawk and I give you what hawk characteristics are. If you're a rabbit characteristics. If you're a turtle and turtle characteristics. If you're a lion, right? Those are the 4 animals. You hit me up in comment section and next time I go live, I'll give you more information about it. But anyway, but there's certain characteristics around and I'll share with one. Lions, they'll yell at you, rah, right? They just boom, right? They just let it out. So if you got lion characteristics, they apologize later, right? But if you're someone who's got rabbit characteristics, rabbits, they have a heart. The rabbits, they like to go to their safe place, right? So if you yell at a rabbit, they're not confrontational. Rabbits are not confrontational, but they remember. So a rabbit, you yelled at a rabbit when you was in senior, you're in college and you yelled at a rabbit, and then they're now at a job that you want to have, and you're up there, and you're the lion, and you're up there doing an interview at that job. They're like, "Hey, Andre, how you doing?" Let's say, I'm a hawk, but let's say I was a rabbit. I'll let the boss know, and I'll be hiring that person, right? Because it's like they remember. They remember back when you were like, you're lying. That's what you do, and you apologize later. But you got to be careful with those kind of people. So I do exercises like that for my students, and then they tend to fall neatly in one of those 4 groups. Turtles are people kind of reclusive, think on their own, get into their shell. They only come out when they want to come out. They're very methodical people. Hawks, big picture people. They come in, handle their business, and come out. Remember me going into Hollywood, doing what I need to do, go to Burbank, do what I need to do. I live in Altadena. I go in to do business, I get out. Hawk characteristics, right? And so when something goes down, hawks, they out of there. Something goes down, rabbits, they out of there. Something goes down with a turtle, they just tune you out. They're not people who go places. They just mentally just tune you out, right? And so you'll be yelling at them, they just tune you out. So once you know what animal species you are, then you'll know how to react to other people. And it'll come. You'll see it. You're like, man, okay. And we do the exercise with the emotion because that's normally when we get in the most trouble. When we're emotional, then that's when we do things. So we hide or we run or we yell. That's that emotional thing. Remember that under 25, emotions kicks in, right? And we tend to have those characteristics. So it's important to know that it's just about yourself. So as you navigate through these things, right? And you can just use this in your daily lives. People that you're close to, you got to know how to find your space, grow. When we're doing things, we want to support Black culture, especially nowadays. We are looking to support each other much more than I think we've done in a long time. We realize there's outside elements that just aren't going to support us. And again, is it their fault that you don't support yourself, right? I use an old analogy. And for those of you who fly on airplanes, what do they say when that mask drops on the airplane? You put the mask on yourself before you put it on anyone else. I look at that with Black culture. Got to take care of yourself before you can take care of other people. We're a friendly people. We want to help other people, but you can only help other people once you help yourself. And right now, in the entertainment industry, we've got to recalibrate things. If we want certain stories that are out there, we got to support multiple people, multiple entities that are doing things out there. And that way you can support others and collaborate, like what I was doing here, right? Collaborate with other people that you run into, so that it's really important for you to kind of see what's going on. And you don't necessarily have to have a tit for tat, right? I forgot this young man's name, but I'm able to do my little part by saying where I got it from. Hey, the next time you never know when you might be in Shreveport, Louisiana, right? And you're on Texas Street. And you're like, I remember there's a store around here somewhere. This brother got a store around here somewhere. That little bit. Imagine if we all did little things like that. How much much further things can go, right? Putting the extra couple of dollars into this, learning how to do it yourselves, doing little pieces. Might not be, you're not going to have a Ryan Coogler $90 million budget. So I've seen in my genre, I've seen people make horror movies for like 150,000, 50,000. Eventually you're going to get more. So don't worry about how you start. And again, what is it? Let's just kind of, because I don't want to, assume anything. So what is a movie? A story, and I'm just going to break it down to just real simple, right? It's 90 minutes. Now, some of them you might see for 88, 87 minutes, but a movie is 90 minutes long. That's a movie, right? Multiple scenes, connected, scene one, scene two, eventually, all movies are just a combination of scenes. If you do it, the combination of scenes, and I'm making this real simple, right? Because it's a story, people are going to get deep with you and all that kind of stuff, but I'm just letting you know what the real deal is. 90 minutes is a movie. 60 minutes, an hour drama, 30 minutes sitcoms, and half-hour shows. See, 30 minutes, a sitcom, which typically is episodic, right? So you do a sitcom, you got to do more than one. So let's just say a typical nowadays, 2025 sitcom, a sitcom situational comedy. That's what that stands for. But there's other little half hour. But now we have half hour dramas as well, because our attention spans are a little bit shorter. But situational comedy, half hour, you typically do 8 episodes. So 8 half-hour episodes. That's a season. Drama, 60 minutes. And I'll just say 8 episodes again. It could be more, but 8 episodes. Television is episodic. Film's a standalone. So one film, 90 minutes. That's it. Now there's books to show you how to write stuff. And I think on one of my last ones, I did share with you. Yeah. But I'll pull them back in. And I'll constantly pull them back again, because there's not about high stuff. So if you want to write something, here's what I wrote with. Sid Field's Screenplay, The Foundations of Screenwriting. Step-by-step guide from concept to finished script. This is old school. I suggest you get the book and read it. Don't get a digital version of this. Get the book, read it, so you can take it with you to school, take it with you to your break room. Nobody's going so you can mark it up and scratch it up. And I got my little stickies in here. This is what I use to write my screenplays, okay? And you could do television. Now, this other one, I don't use this one, but I bought it. You might hear this out there as well. It's called Save the Cat. It's another way of doing scripts, writing of a script. I share it with you because these are the 2 professional ones that if you're nowhere in Hollywood and no one's ever told you about these 2, then that's strike number 1. So that's what I'm sharing with you now. I do not use this one. I know about this one. People are as excited about this one as I am about this one. But for me personally, because I always like to share what I actually do, I read this one. It's the one I gave my nephew, and he decided he wanted to be a screenwriter. I gave him this one. And you got to read it. It's shouldn't have to say it, but I'll just, so you see. This one is 309 pages. 309 pages. So you can probably order from Amazon, local bookstore. They haven't changed much. This newly revised and updated This is probably this one has very few revisions to it, but get this one. So when you watch this episode, just take a screenshot of this. If you have family members who this would be a great present for them, who you're thinking they might be actors who need to do a little bit more than just acting, right? Because writing scripts and acting are supplemental things to each other. So you want to get them something as opposed to some, some mechanisms, some piece of clothing or something. Give them something that they can use a lifetime. And it actually is good when they have their own little bookshelf in the back. And again, I'm that type of person who, when I hear from all these motivational people, and they're always like, well, okay, I'll give you some more information, connect to my whatever and download my stuff. And for, $5.99 a month, I'll tell you more. Nah, it's just not me. I mean, if y'all got the money to do that, people took their time out for me. I always like to drop straight knowledge of something that you can now move it forward. It's just not complicated. You got to put the time in. Nothing comes. That quick hustle stuff has ramifications for it, right? You can quick hustle a lot of stuff, but you guys, you cheat the system. At some point, the system we're in that now, if you try to cheat the system, at some point, karma connects and all of a sudden it comes crashing down. So we're experiencing that now in 2025. Cheating the system, some of my friends back in the day with their little taxes, the tax man will find you, right? So the hustle, tax man finds you, you do some wrong stuff and, things happen. So in order to prevent that, understand that it's okay to put the work in. And yes, it feels like everyone has jumped in front of you and is running. But I don't know if young people, I don't know when you're little, do they still read The Tortoise and the Hare, that little book? Man, there's a lot of stuff that we're hearing, a lot of debates and a lot of stuff, a lot of stuff about book issues. But but at the same time, and again, I'm not saying any of this stuff is not valid, but at the same time, can we also remind parents of the books that kids should be reading? There's extra things you could, but The Tortoise and the Hare is iconic about life. It's one of those life lessons that you need to know. The one that goes out fast isn't necessarily the one that wins. I mean, that all little kids, I don't care what the little kid is. All little kids need it because that's a survival technique that lets them know and rationalize. And in every industry, you can be like, Dad, that man, they're getting all these accolades, da 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 da, and it feels like I'm not getting nothing. But you're putting in the work. You're putting in the work, right? You're building your house brick by brick by brick. You just putting in the work. You quietly doing the work. Everybody's getting the little cheat sheets, and you up there reading books. You actually reading about the thing that you want to do with your life. Oh my God. And you read more things about it, and you just quietly, you're at your job, and during your break at the job, during your break room, as opposed to pulling up and looking at crazy stuff on your phone, you're actually on your break at your job because you got to work to pay your little bills. So when you get your 45 minutes in the lunchroom, you put this in your backpack or the little locker they give you at work. And then during your break while you're eating lunch, you read just 5 pages, 5 pages a day. That's 25 pages a week, right? 100 pages in a month. This is 309 pages. That's 3 months. If you just do that, right? Every time you have a break, you're on the bus going to your job or going to school, or you're on the L, on the metro, or say your parents are driving, you're in the back seat going to school, right? As opposed to playing some games that's not doing anything for you, you're reading this. And then inside this is going to tell you, I'm going to tell you everything because you need to read it. It's going to give you a little exercise to do. Now you're investing in yourself, and you have total control over this. And you're not gonna get all depressed because there's a lot of stuff out there. You got to stay focused. Now, one thing I do want to recommend to all of you, and this is something that I got to give my brother Harold shout out for, because when we were younger, he taught me this game, and this game allowed me to concentrate. It allowed me to quickly, like you're at the job, and let's just say you're at a job where you're on your feet, right? You work at McDonald's, somewhere where you just can't stop and do some stuff. And the only little time you have, so you get you get your lunch, which I would suggest when you're younger, make your own lunches so you can save that money, right? Don't be going out there and buying lunch every day for $7-8 plus some coffee, right? That's $10 out of your poor little paycheck. You can't afford. Make your lunch, bring your own coffee in a little thing if you drink coffee, or if like me, I love Snapple. It is what it is, right? Peach Snapple, and if there's any raspberry Snapple out there, it is not. I need it with the sugar. So, but for those of you who can't do sugar, my sister, thank you. My sister took me a peach Snapple and that strawberry Snapple, and that raspberry Snapple. Right. So if I'm buying that every day at work for like $2, then go to the store and get a 6-pack of it and just bring one with you. All of that extra money helps you, right? So you're going to work. So this game allows you to, so you're on your feet, you're dealing with customers, you don't have time to really kind of like while you're on the work floor kind of looking at something. You can't do it. That's just not the kind of job that you have. Your boss is looking at you crazy. You need the ability to concentrate. That game is chess. CHESS. The game called chess. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, men and women, chess. Learn how to play chess. If you have the ability to play chess with a roommate or someone at your house where you can actually have the pieces, do that. If you can't, there's free chess on your phones. Buy the little introductory book to chess. I think it's over on my other side. But learn how to play chess. It's a great concentration game. It gets you to focus quickly. Now, I'm sharing things with you that I use to be successful. And I think that's the only thing I can share with you is things that either helped me or they didn't help me. So I'm cutting it all down to the chase. Now, yes. Did I play football? Yes. Did that also help me in life? Yes. But those of you who can't play football, chess. Those who can play football and get chess. Those of you who are in cheerleading squad, chess. Those of you or skateboard your friends, chess. I don't care what your other activities are, chess. Because it helps you concentrate and helps you understand strategy so that when you are now focused, you can focus in on this. So of your 45 minutes of eating, it's you're eating and you're focused on this. And you got your little notepad and you take your little notes, got your little backpack. That's what you do every day at lunch. You ain't got time to be chitting and chattering with people. Now be cordial at work. It's always nice to, be friendly. And if people constantly bother you at work, which, people do, because I remember sometimes when I was in that working environment, right? People come to your table because, I'm Aquarian. So, I got a little bit of personality. But I know how to just be quiet because if I start talking, and boom, here they come. So I would cheat the game where I would bring headsets with me or earplugs, put them in, plug them to something. I'm not listening to anything, but it looks like I'm listening to something. So, when you're like this, it's hard for someone to come up and start talking to you, or you got your plugs in. And I'm reading. I got my plugs in and I'm reading. So your nonverbal communication is saying isolation, right? You're isolating yourself. Now, prior to you starting and maybe at your end, my sun is coming down here. Ooh, man, getting a little bright in here. Ooh, yeah, nature. I always keep I'm lucky. My whole front, I don't know if I flipped it. Maybe one day I'll flip it. But this whole side over here, here's my finger. This whole side over here, my house is all glass. You can look. You can look in. That's where the sun's coming in. So it's starting to set in California. But anyway, back to focused, right? So you're at lunch. Here's just a nonverbal way of keeping people at bay. Now, I see y'all do this sometimes when you're walking on the street, get your headphones on. I always watch the little YouTube things where women who don't want to be bothered, they got those on when they're walking. At the same time, yeah, you're alienating everyone, and then you wonder why you're by yourself and you don't know nobody, right? So you got to know when to open them, be receptive, and shut down. But the goal is, yes, I don't want you guys to be harassed anytime you're on the street, but then you don't meet anybody either, right? So you just got to know how to add to the group. You don't want to be with the same, you're 20 and you got the same 20, 23, 24, you're same amount of friends now that you have from before. That's not growing your population, right? And people look at nonverbal communication a lot. So, but here's a technique. So you're at work, you only got 45 minutes. You see these people. You can be cordial on the floor with them. You can be cordial on your way, leaving for the day. But lunch is about you. Ooh, man, I'm gonna have to do this. Maybe I'll start a little later tonight. What time is it out here? Oh, 6:42. Okay, so a lot of you guys seeing this at night. So this is why it's so bright. I even turned off my podcast light. Don't even need it right now. So concentrate, right? So here's just a way. So headphones, headsets like this. I tend to like these a little more than the ear things. That's just me, right? But bring them, plug it in, don't play it, right? Be disciplined. Don't be playing your music, right? Because you can be at home when it's time for you to relax and wind down, because there's time for everything in your life, right? So music during your break, that's when you should be getting your knowledge. And then at home, you can kick back and do some music if you want to wind down. But when you do that every day, you're doing a little bit more. So now it doesn't feel so overwhelming. You're like, oh my God, it's 309 pages. How am I ever going to get through something like that? Now it's not, because you're doing a little bit, you're investing a little bit in yourself every day. Right. And that's a key thing for you to be able to do. Right. So learn the game of chess. Some schools even have chess clubs and stuff. Right. And even ask your parents or extended family, does anyone know how to play chess? You might be surprised. There might be someone in your family who actually plays chess. Now, my sister actually bought me a chess set. I bought chess sets and I took them to school with me when I was teaching at a design school. And they had to learn like this hard math. And I knew, the design students, just like me, it's like math is like painful. So I bought chess sets, and my class was predominantly women, right? And I was kind of surprised that a lot of them didn't know how to play chess. Chess is not a male game. A lot of males are exposed to it, but folks, let's just nip all that in the bud. That's what I'm letting you know now. It's a strategy game for both men and women, and it helps you concentrate. And you can play it solo once you learn how to do it. So you can play it on your laptop. You can play it on your phone. I recommend, if at all possible, to play with someone. Now, be careful. Some parks in America, people still go out there and play chess. There's a old classic movie that when you're bored stiff at home, it's called In Search of Bobby Fischer. It's called In Search of Bobby Fischer. Matter of fact, Lawrence Fishburne is in the movie. For those of you who know Lawrence Fishburne, Lawrence Fishburne's in a chess movie. Yes, it's called In Search of Bobby Fischer. It's a really cool little movie to just kind of get you motivated and just kind of understand the fundamentals of chess. And if you can play it with someone, and again, a lot of us have a lot of these resources that we need within our own families if we just ask, our extended family. If your mother or your father have uncles and I mean, not uncles, but their sisters and brothers and ask them. It's like, Dad, is anyone in our family play chess? Mom, does any of your sisters play chess? Or did any of them love music when they were younger? Do they still have their albums somewhere or the record players? You might be surprised that they might say, yes, such and such has it. You're like, well, next time we go visit, can I see that? And they come over, you'll be surprised. And sometimes you're going to get them so excited because the thing about music, especially when you have older stuff in your little, see, I'm just going to pull, I just randomly pulled a CD because I have it on my little, oh, it's a little shiny on here. This is the Winans, All Out CD, right? It's got the little jacket. Some of you don't even know what a CD is. The compact disc, right? Put this little puppy in a player. It's like a little baby album. And what's really cool about CDs, they have this like the little jacket. It's got the information in it. Oh man, I'm so shiny today. I love it when it's partly cloudy, but I don't like to close my thing. But the little jacket tells you like who wrote stuff, linear notes. Really cool. Man, you'd be surprised. You mess around and you find some stuff, and a lot of times you'll be able to have a conversation with a relative you've never had before, and you both will benefit from it because they're going to share with you the old school and maybe when they got it, and y'all listened to it, and you be like, man, that beat is funky, Pops. And you're like, wow, who was that? Who's singing like that? And you're like, that's Celine Dion, or that's, Dionne Warwick, or whoever it is. And you're like, wow. So that's the beauty of extended family. If you don't have extended family, just even in your friend circles, be surprised. Maybe challenge at school. Maybe the challenge at school is you ask the teacher who you say, hey, your favorite teacher, and see if they got a vibe. And maybe they bring some of their CDs to school and play them for you, right? Because learning is all about just adding some of those extra elements. And you can always have a learning experience from lots of things, right? So these are supplemental things. In a fragrance class that I taught, I brought movie soundtracks. And they listened to soundtracks. And I told them to close their eyes, listen to the soundtrack, and then imagine what it would smell like. My bosses couldn't say anything to me because I made it connect. Right? History. You could do a history class and you can be like, okay, as opposed to like just boring history, is like, okay, the 1970s. You need to talk about the 1970s. You bring in some funk music. You let them listen to some funk music. You tie it. You can. That's the beauty of education, to educate. Right? But seriously though, if you guys can just in your own families, just ask the question, does anyone have albums, and man, if you mess around and you got one of those relatives who opens up that garage, that basement or the locker, and they got jam packed or crates. A lot of families who have albums and crates are just that's what you put your albums in. Those plastic crates, that's what they go in, right? It just is what it is, right? So if you mess around and one of you got a relative that got crates, and then now you can like every night, as opposed to listen to some of the junk that's on television, and you're tired of all of that just whining and blah, 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 you just listen to like 5 albums or 2 albums a night and just read, and the jackets will tell a story. It talks to you about the artist, maybe some of their motivations, just all kinds of stuff. And then just put your headphones on, a turntable. If you don't have one, it's like, hey, what can you get for my birthday? Well, Dad, give me a turntable. And he's like, what you know about some turntable, right? And you might go to one of the, what do you call them? Not the junk stores, but where you turn in, like you can get like used musical equipment. I forgot, like a pawn shop, right? Sometimes you can go to those pawn shops in your communities, and a thrift store. Sometimes thrift stores have a section because people donate clothes. Sometimes they donate albums. Sometimes they donate the machines themselves. Maybe the machines might be not in great shape. The speakers might be bad, but then a lot of us have that little techie friend of ours who loves to wire stuff up. And you're like, hey, I got the speaker, but the wires are broke. Can you help me? And they hook it up, and now you put your stuff together. You create your little DJ kind of a vibe, man. And what have you lost? Nothing. You have expanded your curiosity. You have found rich music that gives you a good ear. And now you got at lunch, whether you're in high school, elementary school, college, at work, you can start working on your craft by just understanding how to master your day. Because like me, when I'm tired at night, it's hard for me to be motivated when I'm tired, right? I just need sleep. I was that kid, right? I need sleep. It's like I got to study for tomorrow, but if I don't get any sleep, I'm just like a drunk. I have to sleep. I just got to recharge my battery. So that's why I maximize. So when I'm in that, like, I can't think mode brain, it's over. So I need to know, and that's just me. You guys might be a little different. I am a vampire creatively, but when I'm tired, when my brain is tired, or I cheated a couple of days of sleep, and my body's like, yo, man, there's about 3-4 hours that I'm missing. And my body, I don't know, this might be funny to you guys, but my body is like a calculator. It'd be adding it up. It's like, all right, 1 hour there, all right, 2 hours there, 3. And then that one day, I'm out for them 4 hours get kicked into that day. My body's like, no, we not cheating with these hours. I'm getting these 4 here. So I know that about me, that I just can't cheat. Maybe that's age. Probably to a degree. But no, even when I was younger, though, I did still need to get my sleep. But, you didn't have as much to do when you were younger. When I was younger, it's like go to school, play sports, wasn't intense, right? So, but now I know that there's so much of my brain, and I do multiple things that I just know it's precious time, and you've got to maximize the time that you have. Some people are like early morning people, so and busy people tend to be successful people because they just know how to maximize their time. It's amazing. I don't know if this is true or not, but I know that a lot of times people who go to school who also have a job are much better in school when they have a job. I think that's because they concentrate much more, right? So the time that they have to study, and I'm just going to talk to you about me for a second. If I know I have all weekend, and I might hit a button with some of you guys. If I know I have all weekend to study, when do you think I start? And let's just say I know this like Thursday. I got all weekend to study for an exam that I got to do, like say that Monday. Sunday night. So that whole Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I procrastinate all the way to that Sunday night to do it. And all of that extra time I just threw it away. Now, if I was working and all I had was Sunday before, I'm in it, right? Because I had to work Friday, had to work Saturday, and I'm off, or I had half a day on Sunday. Let's say I have a day on Sunday, right? That means Sunday night, headphones, I ain't talking to nobody, get my little food together, in. And then Monday, when I take an exam, it's concentrated and it's in there, and it's in there hardcore. I got it in there, and it's fresh, and I'm ready to regurgitate that stuff out. I'm kind of thinking that's what happens, because you don't have a lot of time. The time that you do have, you can't be playing around. And that's what you got to do with your life, right? So if you don't have nighttime, then throw a half hour in the beginning of your day, right? Be a little bit more efficient. Well, at lunch, we go out, with everybody to go get lunch. Well, that you got to get out of that crowd, right? So when you say to that crowd, your crowd who goes out for lunch every day, that you brought your lunch, you're automatically telling them, I ain't going out with y'all. I brought my lunch. So now you're going to go to the break room, and you're going to figure out everything about the break room, how the break room moves, right? Things that you can keep in the break room, things you can keep in the refrigerator, just all kinds, just efficiencies. It's like, okay, you can bring some places, they provide you coffee or tea, right? And so, okay, so that's one less thing you do. In my refrigerator, I bring my little Snapple from home, put in get my little, container, bring it to work, bring my food to work, prepare my food when I'm at home, bring it to the job so that when I'm at my break, put my headphones on, got my food in front of me, got my my raspberry Snapple in front of me, and I'm go ahead and knock out what I need to do. It could be some writing stuff I need to do, some research I need to do, some reading I need to do to keep me abreast how to do trademarks. I'll talk to you about a lot of the business stuff, as we continue to go on, or as you hit me up and address me, I'll address those as well. But I wanted to kind of start with you, just to let you know I will be coming live. So uh, if you subscribe, then you get the notification and you come in. I'll play around with different times today. I'm doing it on a Saturday, but I'll play around and see what's a good time for my audience to do it. But I had some free time on Saturday, and I said, well, let me jump up and let me get this process started with you guys, and just kind of let me kind of go back to my rationale of what this subject for today was all about. And again, I pose this question because this might get back to him, and you might, for those of you who are fans of Tyler Perry's work, and you go up to his page, say, hey, you ever, why don't you do Madea in space? This is what I want you to have, that kind of conversation, right? Because we can do more than one thing. We can't stop because of what you're hearing or things that's going on in people's lives, their business lives, their personal lives, as opposed to content that's happening out there. And smart producers will look at these things. And I'm just putting this challenge because I want to kind of get Black people off urban life as the only place. You know what I mean? So, and again, I go back to centric entertainers, like, white people go to the moon, we going to the moon. So this is where I want to expand by suggesting it to you guys as fans, as consumers, as customers, that hey, that you be open, you want to see something like this, and a smart person will look at it. It's like, a large part of my audience is like, yo, man, can we do Madea in space? And then boom. Now he's got something to do. And then because of that, it opens up for all of us to start exploring different kind of avenues. I did like, it was different. Wakanda, the first one, it was on the ground. And the second one, they were underwater. So they were able to expose an audience that doesn't do that. I was just watching that, Jaws week came back, right? They're doing, I forgot which network they're bringing back Jaws, and Black people, especially in South Carolina, who live near the ocean, if you were to do Jaws in South Carolina, where Black people live near the ocean, that Jaws might be a little different, right? Because the people, because you're still gonna have the sheriff, the boat rescue, but these are like Black people in boat rescue. So you can switch it up. You don't always have to like go to Jamaica to do a Black version of Jaws. There are beaches where Black people have homes and have lived in his communities for a long time. The Geechee in South Carolina live off of an island. There's waterfront, and again, it only expands some of these territories and the creative things that we can do as people, because we're no different than anyone else. Black people live in every state in the union, including Alaska. Now, in Alaska, there might be a lot of military Black people, but they up there, right? I remember when I was at Howard, I met I met a Black girl from Utah. I'm like, there's Black people in Utah? This is back in the late 80s. And her father was in the Air Force. So she lived in Utah. Now you can go to Utah now, Salt Lake, because of Utah players, but there's black people everywhere, everywhere. And so there's going to be black people up there in Fargo. There's going to be black people in the snow. I snow skied when I was a kid in upstate New York at the Aquarius Cups. So I was a little brother on skis. Why? Because my mom, it sounds like, let's go skiing. Why not? It wasn't even like why not? It's something to do a little different that you can grow with, right? Black people everywhere. Rodeo, horses, farmers, everything. You go to Iowa, there's probably some Iowa black farmers up there too, farming, doing corn. And if they're not, I know there's black people in Iowa if they're not doing corn, but they up there. They're in every. I can't even think of a state. And Hawaii, Alaska, and the non-states. Well, they in Puerto Rico. We're everywhere, and so that means we can tell every story as well because we have the same experience. Black people live in the beaches, the beach areas, whether in California or down there in the Panhandle, down there in Texas and near the water. There's black fishermen, black captains, all kind of stuff, right? So this just opens up all of the different things. And so none of us been to space, but, Gene Roddenberry, who created Star Trek, he didn't know anything about space other than in his own mind what space looked like. Lucas, Star Wars, in his mind, what aliens looked at. I forgot who created the Planet of the Apes, but all of the Planet of the Apes, the original ones. Now, I'm going to be a little controversial here, and I'm going to say this with this in mind. Now, I come from a home where I still have my Planet of the Apes trash can in the room that I grew up in Pennsylvania. My mom still has my Planet of the Apes trash can. And I'm from a small town where it's called Yaden, Pennsylvania, and we had our own movie theater, the Yaden Movie Theater, which is where I saw Planet of the Apes. Now, I tend not to be like controversial, but this one I just, because I'm a fan of the franchise. Now, the original Planet of the apes were the most human and being apes, meaning that they were in human clothes and to the degree standing upright, but a little bit crouched so that it made sense because it looked like, it kept a little bit of what they used to be like. But they were clothed. They had clothes. What I don't like about the new Planet of the Apes is they're all hairy again, running around, short, running around. I just can't take that. It's not, it's you could do, one of the movies kind of was like a precursor to the Planet of the Apes that I saw. Remember, I'm walking into Planet of the Apes when they're speaking human-like, extremely human-like, dressing like humans. What I was cool about it is, they made the breakdown of chimps, orangutans, and gorillas, almost like race that we would have in humans, and the little intricacies that each of those groups had. Like the gorillas, they were the most physical. They were the most aggressive. The orangutans were the most intellectual, and the chimps were in the middle. So they had some intellect and some, so they were the counterbalance. So you had extreme aggressive, extreme intellects, and then the chimps, they were they were in the middle, that they had both of those combinations. I just thought that was genius. You were able to tell a lot of human stories without having to see humans, and then to us, we were allowed to connect to that because we weren't necessarily seeing ourselves. And then the mirror was humans were the mirror that we're looking at as to how a minority would feel if someone else was the majority. And the humans in the Planet Apes were mixed humans. So it wasn't just white people, but they were all mixed. So it was humans against the apes. And the apes' characteristics were a little bit more defined, separate, to walk into some of these human things that humans would do. I just thought that was great. And then when they came back out with them, again, the original person wasn't doing it anymore. They brought him back to being more ape-like, ride on horses. They ain't got no clothes on. It was just. I still watch them? Yes. But do I have to share that one with you because that's personal? Because remember, I got that trash can still at my mom's house, and I say all that to say that those original Planet Apes are on YouTube. Conquest of the Planet Apes, Escape, all watch them. Oh man, just great stuff. And so I say that to say that we can create everything that everyone else creates, and we're going to give a different spin on it. It's going to be interesting, and it extends things out. So let's take what we have so far, and we have a couple of people that are moving that for us, right? So with Jordan kind of going into horror space, Ryan Coogler kind of going into that sci-fi space. Now he's kind of introduced vampires as well. Let's expand the pool of people in those worlds and not have to wait for them specifically to do that. That's just 3 people, right? Let's be as expansive with our stuff. So that you have more things to look at, and it makes going to a movie theater great to do, and which I think we got to figure that out. Now, from the film business, we got to work on that cost. We got to get those costs down. Theater owners, call me, because we got to get those costs down so that people can go. Trust me, you'll make it up in volume, but we got to figure that out. The movie theater has to survive because it is one of the greatest ways to experience something so that you can see something huge. There's nothing like seeing something on an 80-foot screen. It's larger than life. And where does that come from? I think a lot of that comes from the next time you go to a city for a tour and you go to the monuments. Monuments are typically always built big, right? If you ever go to Washington, D.C., and you go to Abraham Lincoln Memorial, right? And you walk in and you see this huge statue. The idea of it now, right or wrong, the person who is of the statue takes on this almost these godlike characteristics. And 9 times out of 10, they're human just like the rest of us with the same kind of faults that the rest of us have, right? Let me adjust this again. Ooh, my little son behind with the sand, and I'm going to wrap this up in a few minutes. But it's a big experience, right? And that's why you always want to do it. So even when you guys go to your arenas and like say me and go down to LA and you see the Kobe statue or the Shaquille statue, they're gonna be huge. You're like, wow, these are huge people, right? The same thing happens when you see a movie in a theater, right? It's just big. Right. And that experience, you just can't duplicate that in your house. Right. You just can't. I don't care how. Now, some of y'all might be balling, but I think I have a 45-inch screen, or maybe that's 55-inch. It's not going to do it. Right. You need to go see these things in a movie theater. Television is great for television stuff. And when you repeat stuff and you want to see stuff, like I'm not lying to say I haven't watched anything on my phone. I have a full disclaimer. I have a Samsung here. I do watch, but laptop, no dates. Mobile phone, no dates. Take her to the movies. go to miniature golf, and then go get something to eat that's not heavy. And you got 3 opportunities now to hear, to listen in a way that when you, because the whole goal, if it looks like a second date is what you want, uh, you got 3 opportunities is listening to things, right? And enjoy yourself. You saw a great movie. We need to keep the arts with us. And when you start to do that, then what's going to start happening is those of us who like to do original creative stuff, now we have a platform to do it. And for those of you who want to get into that world, now we've expanded things. So let's help those of us who are in front of us, who are doing it now, know that, and any kind of investors know that our plate of what we want to see is more expanded than what you think it is. So there's not like a triple, double down on the same stuff. And we just kind of stay in this cycle of just a certain genre that's just like over. I mean, how many times can you have a drug dealer? You know what I mean? So it's like, how do we get, in this case, and mine is lighthearted. How do we get Madea in space, right? So, it's like, how do we do the next Planet of the Apes? How do we do these things with people? How do we do, quote, the Black Jaws, right? And so it's got to make sense. And, I'm in certain part of South Carolina. There's this little black village there. You just drop that's the place that the shark. Now the shark ain't got to change. You don't need the shark's the shark, right? You don't need a black shark, right? It's just that this shark shows up in this black town in South Carolina on the beach where there's a black sheriff, right? And then you just know how that's gonna work, right? And so you can play around with a lot of stuff there. You can get some excitement with doing things like that. So thank you guys for showing up and checking it out. And again, just something for you guys to think about while we're going through all of these times is in summertime as well too. So let's do some activities, things that I just wanted to remind you about, understanding just some of the physicalities of yourself, knowing how your brain works when you're younger, up to that 25. So now you have an excuse. Andre then gave you an excuse as to why you lost your damn mind for a hot second, right? It's like, well, he said this, the cortex is, and see, that's why I cussed you out. So, some of y'all gonna take it there, but just understand how you can do some meaningful things in your day, in your life that you have now. All of us have to eat lunch at some place, and normally it's a time where you can kind of separate from the pack. But as you're doing that, do some homework. Find from your relatives and ask your parents, ask your relatives if they still got their CDs, they got their albums out there somewhere, man. Oh man, that would be so cool if you guys, and if any of you guys find them, just hit me up. And you can hit me up at the Way We Do It website, at the channel. Just send me a comment, hit me up there, and we can talk about it in the next episode. But especially if you guys did something, I'd love to hear. You put that challenge out there. Learn a game of chess. Learn a game of chess. It will help you concentrate. There's no excuse. Option number 1 is to learn it and play it with the physical chessboard in front of you. If you can't do that, there is if you're at a school, ask them if they have a chess set at the school. Ask your teachers; they know how to play chess. Maybe you can go to the library and see if there's a chess set that they had. They go back and find out they already have a chess set there. Pull that chess set out while you have to go to the library and play chess, and you'd be surprised someone else might want to learn too. You can on your phone learn the rules of chess. You can play chess on your phone, on your laptop as well. But the greatest way to do it is playing a game with someone. I think I talked about it just briefly, but in certain parks have players play chess in the parks. Um, they're out there every day and they just play, and you can just observe and observe, and at some point, strike up the conversation. There's chess classes, there's chess schools around as well too. But when you get around chess people, it's a real small kind of community. A fun little movie to watch about the world of chess. It centers around a chess prodigy, a young person who's just like a genius in chess. And it's called In Search of Bobby Fischer. In Search of Bobby Fischer. You could probably see it for free on YouTube, but it's a really cool way to just understand. And you'll from that movie, you'll see why I say it's such a concentration game. And then what do you do with that concentration? You take that concentration into your daily life. So when you have a lot of stuff going on, you're able to quickly focus on something that you want to do. And you got 15 minutes, and then your brain just knows how to just tune out and zoom in, because that's the whole thing about chess. Is it's all about those pieces on that board. Nothing else matters. It's only right in front of you. Your whole world is right there. So you use that same skill. You're at a job that's very busy, a lot of stuff going on. Put your headphones on. Don't play the music, but look like you're playing the music, and then get into what you need to do. And last thing before I tune out is you want to make this sort of like a daily rhythm, right? You want this to be a daily habit. So you go to school every day. If you go to school every day, then a little piece of that day you should be doing something. You go to school 3 times a week, and that's the days you can do this on, then do it those 3 days. So repetition is really important for us, because you'll be surprised when you do a little bit every day how it builds up to more. And to save on that food, especially when you have to eat lunch, you got to eat something at the job or at your work or at school. Get your favorite things that like me. It's like, I know I like Snapple, right? So it's like, that's a no-brainer. So for me to get a 6-pack of Snapple is going to be much cheaper than me spending $3 a day for the Snapple. That extra money can buy me that book. That extra money can buy me new headphones. That extra money can just be, if you got to put gas, or that little bit of extra money can help you with your train fare. I mean, you can just reallocate that money to something else that you need. And then again, I always have an alternative motive for bringing your lunch, because when you bring your lunch, you're automatically telling your peers at work who are going out doing something. And if they don't, and if they're in the lunchroom as well, then that's when you kick in the headphones, right? Because then, as soon as you put your headphones on, you're letting people know non-verbally that you're kind of focusing on something else, and they'll catch it. And you might have to move to another table. You might have to get in there a little earlier before they get in there. So when they walk in, y'all are a crew of 4, right? They walk in, you went in there first, and the 3 of them walk in and they see you with the headphones on, and you kind of doing something. Then those 3 will just typically pivot and they sit down and start doing something. And then you do it the next day. Now there's this habit where, like, man, what you doing? It's like, I got some schoolwork I got to work on. Sometimes you don't want to tell them all your business, right? Because then sometimes people get jealous. So, you kind of play it off. Say, play it off some kind of way. I got to do some kind of report. Got to da-da-da-da. Just throw them off a little bit, and then make up for that conversation with them at some other part of the day. Because, they're going to be like, damn, where's Dre, man? He ain't talking to us every day. You don't need none of that. So if you catch them somewhere else, then you just add that to them. Or after work, remember, my brain gets tired. Look, I got a lot done when I was at work, so that my way leaving, walking, maybe, just depends on how you're moving. You take the bus together or something like that. Now you can add a little bit of additional of that conversation that you missed earlier, because you were doing something, right? So you're not alienating your friends, because I don't want you to do that as well too. All right, folks. So please hit me up. I will be going live a lot. and I want you to kind of get your feedback. So hit me up at my page and talk about some stuff. Tell me if any of these things that you're doing, try these things. Find out which animal you are. If you're a hawk, if you're a lion, if you're a turtle, or if you're a rabbit, right? Which animal are you? Remember, lions, aggressive, loud, leader, out front, but their disadvantages, that aggressiveness sometimes can affect one of those other animals, which is typically lions. Be careful if you know rabbits, right? Turtles, methodical people, take their time. When you stress a turtle out, they just go into their shell and they come out when they want to. You keep tapping on that shell, that turtle. If any of you had a turtle as a pet, you keep tapping on that, ain't coming out. They come out. If you yell at the turtle, they just mentally ignore you. They just detach. They ignore. They're not physically going anywhere, but they just mentally go. Rabbits, good hearts. You can actually hurt their feelings. You can't hurt a lion's feelings. Turtles, they don't care. They'll just tune you out. Hawks just leave. But if you got a rabbit personality, things hurt you. And then when you're stressed out, you have to go to your safe space, wherever that is. So if you're at work and your safe space is your apartment, rabbit is going to their apartment. They got to go to their safe space, right? And rabbits are not confrontational. They're not going to yell at you. They're not going to go lions. They're not going to go toe to toe with you on that kind of stuff. They're going to take that in. They're going to deal with that later and get back to you later. They're innocent, loving little rabbits, but they're going to get back to you later on that stuff. Hawks, yell at a hawk, they just leave. And then hawks are big picture people, man. They're like, they come in, handle their business, and they leave. Come in, they focus, handle their business, they leave. Like me. I always kind of live around major cities. I live in Altadena, which is close to Los Angeles. I need to go into LA, do some stuff. I get out. I grew up in Pennsylvania. I didn't have any choice about that, but that's just because I was hawk-like back then. Dayton, Pennsylvania is right outside of Philly. Go in Philly, come back out. When I lived in the DC area, same thing. Didn't live in Washington, DC. I lived outside of Washington, came in, handled my business, came out. So once you find out who you are, it'll be helpful as well. So that's my little tidbits for this week. And next time I talk to you, we'll chop it up again. It's always going to be something interesting to do. So have a good one, my friends. And I will talk to you guys soon. So there's the way they do it, and there's the way we do it.